Hi, I'm Twaxter, welcome to the channel. In this video I'll be going over a bunch of tips in Subnautica below zero to help you survive. So tip number 1, get as much silver as possible. You find them on these Argentine outcrops. There's a 60% chance to drop silver. Try to get as much as you can, trust me. Next tip, make sure you use beacons to mark very important places in the map, for instance resources or secret labs or whatnot. By doing this, you can find the thing later. There's no map from Subnautica, so you have to rely on beacons and just positions to figure out where things are. Alright, so next tip, make sure you make a fridge as soon as you can. You can store all your fish that you've cooked, you can put all your plant, fire products, all the stuff that you can eat in the fridge, otherwise it will go bad. The way you find the fridge blueprint is that in the fire robotics lab, which is on the surface, if you go to the kitchen, you're going to find the fridge in the corner. So I have a quick video to show you where it is. So next tip I have is make sure you know how to unload batteries and reload batteries on your tools. If you press R, you can go to this little menu, you can unload the battery, and then you can load that same battery into another tool. This is super important if you want to keep one tool always charged, and usually that's the case. You're not really using other tools all the time. So next tip I have is make sure you build a battery charger and a power cell charger in your base. This should be one of the first things you build. You can keep all your batteries charged, it just uses power from your base, and your power cells charged, which will help your vehicles, have power. Make sure you build this, it's super high yield, very important. So next tip I have is that you can sleep in this game and it actually passes in game time. So for instance, if you're waiting for batteries or power cells to charge or your water filtration system to give you water, you can just sleep and when you wake up, everything will be available. This is way better than just waiting or doing something else while your things are recharging. So next tip I have is make sure you pay attention to your base hull strength. If your base hull strength falls too low, then your base will start flooding and it'll start to break down and you start losing things. So make sure you build reinforcements behind things that you aren't, like walls that you don't really care about, for instance behind storage. And also make sure you build foundations. This will increase your base hull strength. So next tip is just make sure you organize stuff as you go. When you start getting more than 2 to 3 lockers worth of stuff, it starts to get really hard to just browse through everything and figure out what you have and what you don't have. You're building a lot of stuff in this game, and if you don't know what you have, you're going to run into a lot of issues and you have to constantly go out and scavenge for more stuff. So what I try to do is try to get as much stuff as possible, organize it, and just fill out everything I have. I never come back home with an empty inventory. So next tip is that you can pin things. So if you go to your blueprints, you can right click on something and then it will pin, and then it will then stick on your HUD on the top right. And then when you actually pick up an item, in the recipe list for that specific pin, it will then check that off and you can kind of keep track of what you need to build. Next tip, if you have any decomposing or bad food, just put it in your bioreactor. You can save it for later. It doesn't really care if your food is bad and it will still give you energy. So next tip I have is make sure you grow stuff either in the alien containment chamber or in the external grow bed. This will help you find that resource later. Some things are really hard to find, for instance the spiral plant or the ribbon plant, which is used heavily for batteries. You can plant them in these areas and then they start growing and then you can get more of the thing that you put in. So next tip is that you can only go in your sea truck, like actually go visit the modules, if your sea truck is horizontal. If you have it fully vertical, you cannot enter it. When you go inside of it, it goes into the pilot seat. And I was really confused about this for a while because I'm like, how the hell can I not enter my sea truck? And then eventually I realized that you have to be at a horizontal angle. So next tip is don't attach too many modules to your sea truck. I find the sea truck was perfect with just 2 modules. The more modules you attach, the slower your sea truck is and the harder it is to control, the more likely it is to get damaged. So I kept 2 modules. I kept the storage and the fabricator, and I didn't use anything else. The sea truck is nothing like the sea moth from the first game, but it's still decent if you don't have that many modules attached. So next tip is you can actually hide or change colors of all your beacons. Just go to your beacon manager, hit tab, it's in the middle, and then you can change colors, you can hide things, you can hide them all. And this is pretty useful if you want the game to be less distracting, if you've already found something, and maybe if you're making a base building video, you can disable everything. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. Subscribe for more content like this. Probably it'll be around gaming reviews, gaming tips, gaming bases, things like that. Yeah, enjoy your day, dudes and girls.